this kaupapa here is a brand new kaupapa and needs a different approach. Your cultural appreciation of how you perceive yourself to be who you are. The kaupapa of Waka is a very, very important part of that psychology of Maori belief systems. It means it's a part of our identity, it's a part of our historical legacy, it's a part of our makeup. And of course, when you explain the significance of the Waka, it all becomes clear. And you know, the Waka itself is a symbol of life. Many, many young people throughout the length and breadth of this country who are warm to this kaupapa, because immediately they start looking at whakapapa and genealogy, they all have a nautical history attached to them. So what better kaupapa to use this taonga not only as a classroom on the open ocean, but also to retrace those ancient routes that the tupuna travelled in their time to spread the populations of Polynesian people, the length and breadth of Polynesia, and wrap it around a package that is wānanga Aotearoa.
Waka has been part of our ancestral traditions. I felt that there was a need to actually bring it back and to allow our people to go back to their roots.
My name's Darryl Lambert. I'm the National Coordinator for the Kaihoe Waka program with Te Wānanga Aotearoa.
My role is the Waka Sailing Coordinator. I'm the Operational Coordinator.
Kia ora, my name's Federico Makia. I'm the Regional Coordinator for the Kaihoe Waka programs around the country.
My name's Clark Pirika. I'm from Aotearoa on my father's side, Te Ati Haunui a Paparani on my mother's side.
This weekend is one of the first induction weekends for a crew that we're looking to upskill to be part of the initial crew for our waka haura, our double hull sailing waka.
Students are screened and encouraged in the first instance to relearn their language, to reconnect with their whakapapa, to reconnect with their rituals of encounter, their traditions on the marae, on the land first, you know, and then begin to learn the traditions of the sea.
The current program started about 3 years ago, and it focuses in particular on inland type waka, inland type canoes, war canoes, outrigger canoes, and it introduces our students to a broad range of nautical studies, including basic navigation, basic water safety, history, construction of various types of Maori canoes. The nominees that we've chosen, or we've had nominated from the various programs, are graduates of the program, the staff of the program, and or staff of the wānanga.
My role here today is basically just to observe some of the skills, perhaps look at some of the skills that these nominees have, you know, for us to be able to select them for our crew, our sailing crew for Aotearoa 1.
There's two things we're aiming for with the team building. We're trying to get them into training with each other. The second is we want to see how they're going.
That's quite a difficult thing to measure, but one way that we do look at doing that is bringing them together in environments like this, put them into environments where they may be under a little bit of stress. We'll slowly stop feeding them too much, we'll slowly cut down their sleep time, and we'll see how they handle things under pressure, how they work together under pressure. And then from there we'll identify who's probably stronger in terms of being able to handle that pressure and still perform at a level that they need to perform on a waka, and see who the leaders are.
I think you may find some good team leaders are able to lead through their crew as well.
Some of the key attributes and characteristics will be that the individual can work as a team, they can work under pressure, they can work with very little resources, and they have to be resourceful themselves. Once we start moving into the long distance voyaging, it could be 30 days or more on a waka with just 20, 30 other crew members. So as you can imagine, they'll have to be able to communicate well with other people, get on well with other people.
I mean, confined spaces out in the middle of nowhere, the last thing you want is conflict. So to me, team building, good team skills is important.
We want to be certain that they are compatible. We want to be certain that they can work in with others. We want to be certain that they're addressing issues, not getting stuck into people.
This group here is different dynamics on this group, perhaps because it's a smaller group and they seem to be working together a lot faster. They've gelled together a lot faster. The last group we had slightly bigger. We had about 4 groups doing rotations, but now it seems like all the evaluators have got their eyes on on most of them at the same time, whereas, and they know that they have to shine.
The thought processes that they used were very similar to the groups that I was involved with a few weeks ago.
We're looking at the training aspect. We want to get them to used to working together with this group and later on with a bigger group. We want to get them used to working in watches, as in small groups, because on the Waka they'll be operating in groups of 6.
The hardships on board of Waka are really tough. They have to be prepared to sacrifice a whole lot of things, like comforts of home, for example. They can't bring Walkmans or radios or anything like that. They've got to be able to keep their minds occupied when they're off duty. They've got to be strong-willed.
Well, basically I joined up because I really want to learn how to sail a Waka and learn all the traditional navigational techniques and just really to follow the path that our ancestors took and hold on to those teachings and traditions and sort of grow from that.
I think the first level of commitment came when we had our whakawhanaungatanga hui over at Ngaruahia, and they did the blessing of the Waka ama. And it was that kind of like really sparked that energy.
Way back, even before I was part of Kaiahoi Waka, I've always been a part of the Aotearoa Waka kōpapa back home.
There are a generation of us here in Aotearoa at the moment that are choosing to look back and bring those things through to pass on to our children so that they can have other choices other than the internet.
The kaihui was bringing me back to earth, so I felt the same for Waka.
Basically it was to fulfill a dream of mine, to retrace our tupuna's footsteps.
To me, none of my whānau had any of that knowledge, and I wanted to take it for them so that it can go on to the next generation.
Learning something new, always that challenge of not quite knowing what's going to happen next.
Got the privilege to go to Rarotonga with their team, and I saw what happened to New Zealand born as they rediscovered their roots, many for the first time, to go back to the islands and to connect.
It's about being here, learning everything about Waka, about where we've been, where we've come from, and where we're going to now.
It's a serious thing. We're at the end of the stick.
And over the next 5 to 6 weeks, we'll be bringing them together again at various venues, and then getting into the training specific, the sailing techniques and sailing skills specific, ready for the launch.
They have to go through a set of tests over a period of noho. They come into wānanga situation and they eat, sleep and drink waka haurua. They have swimming tests to do, they have team building tests to do, they have building tasks that they have to do, they have sailing tasks they have to do, all there is to do about it. And then we'll start to feed them once we've got them competent sailors, wayfinding. It's a healthy lifestyle living. It always has been. It always was good for our people. That's why they covered the vast expanses of the Pacific Ocean, because they were highly skilled, fit, aerobic people.
Not only in Kaiahoi Waka, but to try and incorporate things like getting fit, eating habits, smoking habits, learning the language, learning the traditions, having classes on marae so that they could get to know their maraes, move around their maraes so that they can feel comfortable rather than feeling alienated and as though they didn't belong.
Now, the people you see immediately behind me are involved in a 20-minute stay afloat, which we think is the minimum time it would take for a Waka holdua to turn around and get them if they fell man overboard. This is primarily safety and survival. We don't want them to be caught. If they fall overboard, they've got to be able to swim. If their life jacket, which is a manual inflating one, it's a pull release and then it has a little capsule, inflates it. If that fails, they have to be able to stay afloat. Longest period of time we would expect them to stay in the water and stay afloat is probably half an hour to 3/4 of an hour. Some people have managed a lot longer. Later on we're going to extend that, so hopefully there's a bit of a margin of error in there as well.
We've got a coil of rope in the bottom of the pool there, and what they have to do is dive and swim towards the rope and thread themselves through the rope, at the same time holding their breath. What this is supposed to represent is if the waka is under the water, whether they can get out through the hatches in the event of an emergency.
We have a huge range of people from a variety of places who gather together for a short time, one weekend, to get through so much, to make the arrangements, to make sure they all work, to fit in the variety of approaches is something that we have to do on the fly, generally on the Friday.
I think you need a base like this for a kaupapa like this. You need that discipline type base, you know. I keep telling the guys, you know, what we're doing now is totally different from what we used to do on the Kaihoi Waka program.
Some individuals have taken to the kaupapa like a duck to water. There are others that are struggling a little bit, but they've been encouraged because they know the minimum basic standard is this, and they walk towards that standard, because once they can, that little step, they can make that, get onto that level, the next step up is progress, and the learning curve is positive rather than negative for some of them like it's been in the past.
Just going through an exercise and identifying parts of the waka so that when they actually climb on board for the first time and go to sail, hopefully they'll know where everything is. Safety is not to be compromised, and that's come right from the top. So we have spent a little bit extra, in some cases quite a bit extra, on safety equipment to make absolutely certain we are looked after, and the procedures and the people who are going to be using those procedures are being fully trained before we even sail. We're doing everything that we're required to do and more, and we will continue to do so.
The students are under the tutorship of Hotu Kerr from Waikatoa, and he's putting them through drills on how to rig a specific set of rigging for a 6-man canoe, which has a mast and a spar and a boom. They're learning how to raise the sail, lower the sail, stabilize and fix the yoke to the bottom, which is part of the boom, to the bottom of the mast step. Learning what the mast step is all about, learning the different lines, the lateral stays, the primary stays, and the forestay, and their function, and learning how to operate the sheet line. Other things that I would recommend that they do is learn how to sail. It doesn't matter if they get in a dinghy or a waka ama or a waka kōpapa, waka tete, waka tiwai. Learn something about water management, water skills. And they don't have to wait to come on a course to learn those skills. Get into a club somewhere and learn how to harness the wind. Learn the principles of sailing into the wind and sailing with the wind, and sailing with the wind on the beam, port, starboard. Learn sailmen to be, competent with sail, and learn how to steer. Don't wait till they're taught on a course like this. Do them in their own backyards.
I think if you're going to get success in your courses, you have to engender pride, you have to engender all of those things which motivate people to successfully complete. And so I think within group dynamics we have quite huge success in that, and you can actually see it when you go to one of these things, the enjoyment that people get from that. And that's really a stepping stone to something else. I think from collective pursuit We have to go to individual pursuit.
They must take all the skills that they can prepare themselves to see, so that they're completely a singular entity that they can survive in any climate at sea. The most powerful thing that I need to take with them is their whakapapa.
Crew that are involved with Waka as they've been developing from the induction process through to now with the second noho marae training. The commitment, the energy, the absolute willingness to learn. There is so much to learn, and yet there's no lack of commitment, no hanging back. It's like, what's next?
But we've still got to get them to get that sort of so-called steel in the backbone, so that they can be an entity in themselves if they need to be, whenever.
A lot of us that are involved with the program through the wānanga and the setting up of this whole kaupapa through the wānanga, our experience in sailing and celestial navigation is very limited. So we've been lucky in that we have those relationships through Papa Tom with the Cook Island Voyaging Society, and to have them here this weekend helping us with the lashing is just kind of allowed us all to realise just how real this kaupapa is. For us leading up to now, it's been a lot of theory, a lot of stories, a lot of oral history coming through, but when you actually sit down with people that have done it before, and they're showing us how to lash our waka together, it's kind of made it real.
The rope was an essential piece of equipment and used to be made of coconut fibre called ka, which had the right strength and the right properties of endurance. They do not make this ka anymore, so it is important to find a rope that is similar. The students are today being taught how to lash the hulls to the deck and upper middle section by my experienced Cook Island crew. They start by making sure the beginning of the lashings can't come loose, and then, in this instance, lash in a diagonal manner. They use the forked tool, which is called the keke, with the aid of a mallet to keep the tension. The final part of this type of lashing is called trapping, and is done by tying around the bindings so it keeps the tension and will not come loose. What we have here today is everybody putting their energy into the waka called wairua.
In all sorts of practical ways, we always confirm that belief through symbols in this kaupapa. You have a look at the lashings. Again, that's a symbolic way of cementing and reconnecting with the powerful source of energy that is Io Te Matua Kore. What a fabulous tikanga and belief. And that's what it represents. And of course, if it's not done properly, then the waka is going to shake in the first big storm that hits it. So they've got to be done right. And that's the key that we're being taught by our masters all the time.
My name is Irvin Adams. I'm the construction coordinator of the Waka project. And my role is to oversee construction, day-to-day construction of the Waka, under the instructions of Bruce Burney, who's also the campus manager and the projects manager. I've been involved with the project for the last 2 years now, and initially we started off with the first lines in November of 2002. The boat was built upside down. The basic construction is the kauri frames is made out of double 40mm 20 by 20 kauri timber, and then we clad it or planked it in ply 9mm, and then we covered it in a thin layer of glass fibre and bogged it, fed it and painted it. We've been 12 constant tradespeople on the project, 2 apprentices and the rest support staff, and then we've got some subcontractors that assist us on various tasks, engineering, plumbing and electrical. We gave a lot of the work to smaller companies to assist us in manufacturing parts of the interior, like the mattresses and so on. And we were also
closely involved with BITE, or Boatbuilding Industries Training Organisation, that assisted us in acquiring better prices to compete, because it is an expensive undertaking. This type of project and its magnitude and the way we are building it, with the lashings and the beams going across, the Aotearoa beams, has never been attempted in New Zealand. And so we needed to make sure that we're doing the right thing, and also that we conform, building the vessel to survey requirements, and also trying to keep to traditional looks. But we also needed to make the vessel comfortable for whoever's going to sail it. The initial design was done by Sir Thomas Davis, the ex-premier of the Cook Islands. Now Sir Thomas Davis had built a sister ship to the size before in Rarotonga. I think it's going to be exciting when we launch it. I think she's going to sail well. We've done our calculations, and I think everything that we planned will work out. We are confident. Aotearoa 1's 80 feet long, 24 meters, 8 meters at the widest point on top, on the decks, and it's 4 meters on the center beams. It weighs approximately 20 tonne, with all provisions and men on board. And I'm extremely excited and passionate about working on this project, because I think it's important that we have projects like this, not only for the wānanga, but for the wider community as well.
The building and the designing of the Waka was usually an elaborate affair, and some people say it was a closed affair, but because it was a kaupapa ora, a lot of other artisans were involved in the whole process.
I think I expect the same passion and drive that I have for the program, the same devotion to follow the kaupapa and to experience something that our tupuna did for years.
Areas that I lack, they'll be able to fulfill.
Honesty, safety. To do what I intend to do.
Good communication skills.
No egos, and just listen to the captain.
Yeah, I think you've got to have people who can make decisions when they have to make a decision, and yet listen to other people when, listen to other people's view and go with it.
And what everyone does under pressure, how they react.
Once they can stay focused on the goal and basically work together.
A lot of aroha, being genuine to one another.
Their problem solving and their how they get on with people.
Teamwork is what I expect out of our crew.
Have sea legs, not get seasick too badly that you can't do your chores, and basically take orders from the captain and be part of a team, because our lives depend on it.
In the case of fire, we have to have everybody mustered, ready to go, and a person responsible for going and fixing the problem as soon as possible. Man overboard is another essential one that we must teach, and that's a case where they all have to muster again. We have to check that everybody's there in their life jackets, ready to jump over the side if necessary. All of them can happen at the drop of a hat. They can really happen very quickly. They are required procedures that we must teach the crew. In the case of man overboard, there's a procedure that we follow. It's pretty much a recognised procedure in that the person who sees someone fall overboard has to yell like crazy and just keep pointing at where they are and keep looking at them. Somebody's head in the water is very small, especially when you get waves about 2 foot tall and you're travelling away from them. So the first person looks and shouts, the next person chucks something buoyant, and the rest of us work on getting the waka round to that person in the water as soon as possible.
Stand by to abandon ship!
I suppose my greatest fear is drowning.
Probably once the waka actually hits the water, and it won't be as big as it at the moment it looks.
It's actually falling overboard and getting left behind.
The unknown, I suppose.
Getting sick out there.
Probably getting sick of the people.
No wind, we don't go anywhere.
Not knowing where I am.
Myself, mentally.
A tidal wave.
Very large ocean.
The mentality of fellow crew members.
Maybe the shark.
Sink.
Whether the crew are able to work together and, whether they'll be compatible with each other and me with them, but things like that. But it's not so much a fear, I suppose, a concern.
The spirit of and the symbolism of a kaupapa like this is challenging people at all times to get on with each other, to get on with life, to get a life, and make it as happy and as pleasurable as it possibly can be.
But ever since the first induction, I've started to come to realise there's a kaupapa that's gone far beyond anything that I was expecting.
The sacrifices is an important part of the whole kaupapa, otherwise we wouldn't have them, they wouldn't come. They give of their own time freely, they're here voluntarily, they work on the weekends.
They do need to be here for weekends, if noho marae happen on weekends, and also the availability to participate in voyages.
Well, you know, I have a family, like most of the family here, most of the crew members. I also work full-time and I also study part-time, so you know, she's pretty full-on in my personal life.
My baby, I miss my baby heaps, my tāne, my parents.
Time away from work.
You don't get all the luxuries of home.
The benefits that they get out of that, as we mentioned, the spiritual benefits, the self-development, self-improving aspects of the whole kaupapa, whole holistic kaupapa, totally outweigh any sacrifices. And then once you look back on it, you kind of realise that the sacrifices, if you were to term them, that weren't as great as you first anticipated they would be.
Once I'm back in their arms and stuff, then yeah, it draws us all closer together, and they want to know more about what's going on and they want to see it all, and I'm sure if my parents were young again, that they'd probably be doing the same thing I was doing.
You got to make sure that your partner's behind you 100%.
They haven't felt like sacrifices, it's just part of being a lot more organised and managing my family and my friends and my work.
I will sacrifice a lot of things to go on this.
At the end of the day, you know, you've just got to go with the passion.
I had no choice. I had to do this.
So if people are willing to sacrifice those types of things for the experience of being on the water and with, you know, a close-knit group, yeah, you can't trade that for anything.
There are times for self-development learning. They go home and they look at themselves and try to improve their own outlook as far as the whole kaupapa is concerned. But the group therapy is where they really excel, because they feed off one another, and that's normal, that's natural, and that's healthy.
Our Waka will be water tested, I guess, and geared to become the floating classroom.
Sonicure, if you like, of a Polynesian voyaging canoe. The hull, covered ends, a raised centre section and a decking with hatchways in. This is built to go ocean voyaging. They're not an adaptation of a coastal canoe or a lagoon canoe.
We're in here in the car park for a month with the deck house being fitted, connected up. We're going to put the rig on, test all that. And at the end of that, we get it ready and packed up to shift during the night, because that's the only time we're allowed to travel, down to the launching point, and then we launch at dawn.
As far as the ships and its symbols and what it represents is concerned, they're warming to that as well. They're getting to understand the dichotomy of the kaupapa of the Waka.
This bow and the canoe itself is more Samoan than it is Tahitian, and I've put in strong overtones of the Samoan whaatele.
The Waka itself is a symbol of life, you know, and to personify it, you have two hulls. You have the left hull and you have the right hull. The left hull gives mana to the wahine. It enhances her prestige. The right hull gives mana and prestige to the male element. So we have a balance here. I can still hear an America's Cup sailor saying to me in Apia, "Tip, leave those beautiful trees of yours alone so children yet unborn can enjoy their visual imagery. Use plastic. Your tupuna would have used plastic. So here we are. The hulls are laminated out of wood material and fibre material, and they look absolutely wonderful.
Here the kiata is taken up and comes on top of it.
The huge cross members that tie both hulls together are representative of the connection between the male and the female element, again enhancing their status and aroha for one another.
If I used the sail that went with this, it'd be very big and not good for students to train with. So we had to go to 2 masts. It's in the harbours where you need to tack. And that's why we've chosen the Marquesan Rarotongan, Cook Island Marquesan type sails for this. This is not the original sail for this type of Samoan canoe. But we've chosen that because to allow it to tack through the wind easily.
The main mast, that's called the tiratu, and that's usually representative of the spirit of man in a connection to the children of Rangi and Papa. Those are our first parents. Te tiro tu, and te toko tu, the wahine tautoko, is the mizzen mast.
All of the crew, they're just on a journey. Many of them had definite ideas on what this journey was, where it was going to end, or where it was going to take them, and many of them just weren't too sure. Now that we're at this stage, I think a lot of them can see their aspirations realised. They know it's real, they know it's going to happen, and there's no limits to what could possibly happen now.
Logistics behind moving a waka of this size, basically there's only one company I'm aware of that's capable of doing it. We're using them, boat haulage.
Even though one singular entity may be given the responsibility of building it, he's building it to the needs and the wants of the greater extended family, which is the iwi, which will, in the end, all will have the opportunity to use it.
And this one here is for everybody. And I think that's the important thing.
Down Queen Street, K Road, Portage Road, there are quite a few places Tiki tour around in order to make it under bridges, to make it through places that were wide enough. In one case we missed a bridge by an inch, so it was torturous. For me, I was totally confident in the boat haulage guys because they've done it so many times before with other waka.
A lot of people have been involved in the construction, and that was way before I became involved. A lot of people were involved in even setting up the wānanga. So those that made sacrifices in the early days of the wānanga, so that wānanga could get to a stage where we developed the Kaihoi Waka program, and then those that sacrificed to get the Kaihoi Waka program. And now this stage where we're moving into Waka Haura, I tend to think about all of those people that have worked in the background, worked in their own kaupapa to get us to a stage where we are today.
There's a renaissance. What were we? What was this important symbol and this important piece of technology that we had? What was it? Now we're going back and having a look at it.
Most of the last 500, 600 years, the kaupapa, Maori kaupapa of Waka has been involved around Wakataua. And I don't need to explain to you what the kaupapa of Wakataua is. It means kohuru tangata, hey, you're after someone's blood. Whereas this kaupapa is extremely, is the direct opposite, where it is in the pursuit of preserving and indeed perpetuating and developing contacts and new blood through marriage and whakapapa.
She has been built according to survey, in accordance with survey, which means, of course, that difficulties arose from a traditional design and the modern requirements of safety and strength at sea. But we've overcome all that, and we're about to get in the water.
Those who have done their homework, those who have done the yards and the hard yards and done the study, that have shown the commitment, will get selected.
Doesn't necessarily have to be in the crew. If it's the other side, if it's the administration side, as long as it's part of the kaupapa.
Well, it was a very, very stimulating and very, very memorable occasion, and I really admired the officiating tohunga.
From my perspective, looking around, it was good to feed off the energy of other people who for them it was the first time seeing the waka, and in particular seeing the waka on the water. For me and many of us who've been working behind the scenes, it was a sense of relief and also a sense of, I guess, anticipation in terms of what's still to come.
Being on Rangi Māori, we looked up and you could see the whole boat, and it's a totally different angle. Didn't feel apart from it because we were right there. I looked up on the deck and saw the big, huge grins on the faces. I still felt a part of everything.
The thing that impressed me most about the launch is the different types of weather as it began to slip into the water. On one side there was bright sunshine, on one side of the waka there was heavy rain, and the wind was howling, and she slipped into the water beautifully.
I was so busy and thinking about what had to be done, I didn't really have time for any emotion at all. It only really hit me later.
It was really emotional. I was crying because it's just, you've watched the waka being built over the last 6 months and finishing off things, and even though we didn't do much, but we did things like sanding the main mast and other types of stuff, learning lashing, and it's just was good to finally see it touch the water and know that it's complete.
Looked at it grown from its very first inception. The kaupapa was right.
What spirit of adventure is to what they do in their kaupapa is what this will do for Māori, I see in the kaupapa of this waka.
And we've been blessed by the attendance of tangata whenua here in Ngāti Whātua, that I rather think that, as I said to Tui earlier, you can't bless the waka twice, so this is our official launch. I'm delighted by the makeup of the crew. There's a bit here from there, and there. They represent the iwi all around the country. One from Canada, our tuakana from the Cook Islands. It's great to have you all on board. And I'm really delighted to see that you've been able to come and help us in this launch of a very important project.
So far, I've watched them very, very closely, and again I'm proud to say that despite the fact that they come from the four winds, from Ngāpuhi, from Taupo, from Ngāi Tahu, from Ngāti Porou, from Ngāti Awa, from Aotearoa, they've all worked in very, very well.
Part of our role as a wānanga is to have regard to the retention of tikanga and nāhuatanga Māori. And within that, the cultures and traditions become paramount.
This one here plays an important part in the pursuit of understanding who you are and your culture, because it was the means by which they were able to colonize the whole of the Pacific.
I think there's a good reason for us to do what we're doing and to create that classroom on the water and the challenges that all of that brings.
Our focus is totally academic, but it's also holistic, bringing in the values, Māori values, to enhance what is already there and what we're obligated to by MOE tikanga.
We have to teach people to stand and think on their own 2 feet. So putting a course around which is a group focus course, incorporating all of those things in a strict learning environment has proved to be a winner.
What we've done is we've made them work together in a confined space, in a wānanga situation at campus, and got them to run through all sorts of activities, all group works, that it's all very, very much geared around the idea of them working together as a team rather than analysing each other's personalities. We can't have people questioning orders, because they have to be carried out without any hesitation whatsoever, and they've got to be done well when they do because there's all sorts of reasons why our training has been deliberate in that particular area.
We asked them why they were here and what is it that they want to achieve through this whole process. Without fail, I'd say without fail, they all said that there was a spiritual side within them that they're not too sure what it is, but they're drawn to this kaupapa, and they know that this kaupapa will help fulfill some voids that they have.
It was a step up, a step forward from Kaihoi Waka, and I just wanted to take it to the next level.
I knew that this kaupapa was coming up, and I think it's just a natural progression that you come from a Kaihoi Waka program, and if you want to go further in Kaihoi, this is basically the ultimate, the double hull.
There's the rank of captain, okay, so he has the overall running of the ship. There's myself as kaumatua, and the other 3 ranks that we have are navigators and tour, they're watch captains and crew.
The amount they know now is huge compared to what they did, and it's only going to grow. Having the Cook Islanders here is the cream on the cake because they're picking up some of the more subtle things.
Since the first days of the screening and the training of the students, watching them train hard and then become thoroughly familiar with the rigging and then eventually get out to sea was an awesome experience. We don't want to rush them. By the same token that they have to measure up when any particular type of weather that they have to sail in, they need to measure up, and they are. As far as I'm concerned, they warm to their task, they work well as different teams.
Now that they've finished the test sailing period, they've only just finished a 10-day sail, and looking at them, they're a lot more confident. They're obviously a lot more confident in terms of working as a team, a lot more confident in terms of themselves as individuals, and in terms of their skills around the boat and their orientation around the boat, around the waka, I should say.
It's been great in a sense that we've seen people develop in this kaupapa, especially once we had once the waka was launched, and then you had guys out there sailing, what they'd been training for.
So much the knowledge at Papatip and the crew from Cook Islands have given me. Like I said, when I started, I had absolutely no knowledge whatsoever. I still don't think I know a lot, but I think I'm a competent crew member of this waka now.
When I first started, I had no idea what it was about, but I knew I knew what a waka haurua was, but I didn't know how to work it, what it does. But now that I'm on it, it's been really good experience, and it's been really exciting.
Good in terms of knowing how to work all the ropes and the gear on the waka haurua.
It's part of you. That's what I've got out of it, and I've come to respect it in terms of being out on the water, surviving, working, and actually enjoying sailing on the waka.
Everything that's surrounding the actual waka, it's you're growing every day with it.
Building up our knowledge base and strengthening our wairua.
Of growing, the kapahaka just adds to it. Makes you feel stronger as a team.
Well, other than the sailing, it's the teamwork. It's the ability to get along with people.
You get to learn about other people more, like the people you're working with, and how they operate.
You learn to get over your personal differences and work together.
Trusting our crewmates.
On making the right choices and just knowing your job.
Being able to listen to one another.
Really helping you find yourself.
Not only just the sailing part, but also tikanga in terms of what we're all about as a whole.
It's touching back to the traditional way of sailing.
One of the reasons why I'm doing this, I can take it back and tell them and show them and encourage them to find that that's the same thing that I've found, that fulfilment.
Well, they've certainly grown as seamen, because now it's a kind of I give a command and somebody's normally doing it by the time I've turned around, and that's great. in some cases they see a job needs to be done and they're doing it before I even turn around. And that's what we're really looking for. We're looking for leaders, not people who hang behind, but also knowing when to do that. Sometimes it's inappropriate to jump in and do a job before it's the right time. But most of our guys are getting it right, so really happy.
We've had some outstanding women and men tour leading so far out in the ocean. All the tour that I've seen in charge of their various captains, various groups have been quite outstanding.
From my perspective, they've grown on a number of levels, emotionally, spiritually, physically, and also obviously in terms of their knowledge and the skill base.
Paio, the skipper of the Cook Islands guys, has said that he reckons they have all the basics. Now it's a case of confidence. So that's a really good endorsement. Really pleased to hear that, because that was one of the reasons we had them on board, to confirm or find out whether they needed to do more.
I'm getting a whole new direction in my life.
I think I work a lot better in a team now.
Growing heaps.
Find out things about yourself that you probably would never ever have known, which I thought was really, really good for me.
You're also learning about how the future's going to be.
Hold on to those taonga and the mātauranga that our tupuna used.
Just within myself, I feel a lot more confident.
For some, I suppose it's making them a better person. Myself, it was just a part of that journey that I needed to get onto, yeah. And I'm achieving that now.
And just that there's always stuff to learn with everything.
On a spiritual note, yeah, it's been real deep, satisfying.
I'm doing things that I never used to do before.
You've just found something of yourself that you actually didn't know, that I didn't know was there before. And so that's just like a whole new realm for me, and now it will just build.
Mainly open my eyes to more things that are out there.
Total challenge, awesome mahi to do, yeah, great kaupapa.
I've learned a lot more about myself, how far I can go, how far I can challenge myself, and work with other people, like-minded people. So yeah, it's been great for me, and great for the people around me, I think, as well, because they all get drawn into what I'm doing, and I think they also want to have a piece of it.
Yeah, just so that their experience, knowing that they've actually been on the water, they've actually been voyaging, they've sailed using the stars and the swells and the winds to navigate, and survived. It's just made it all real for us.
We start every morning with a karakia and we finish every night with a karakia after we've anchored up. And it's definitely a strong part of our day, one of the better parts of our day. Sets you up for the day when you have karakia in the morning, and it gives you a cut-off point in the evening when we finish.
It's a huge and wonderful experience learning to use the stars at night.
The stars are right there, and you're able to hone in on some new skills.
We did one overnight sail this trip, and we started looking at the stars and identifying how things like the light on the moon can show you north or south, and all those little clues.
The stars are the most important elements or tipuna that we look to give guidance and direction.
You've never seen so many stars until you're away from civilization, hidden away behind a mountain somewhere, and you look up and there's thousands, millions of stars.
In the city, you don't really appreciate the stars, and I mean, we learned about it on our course in the Waka course, but to actually be out in the ocean and looking and appreciating, why you need to know about them, and yeah, definitely, because you can't see, past the Waka and where you're standing, so you really need the stars at nighttime.
The study of the stars and the Maori compass or the Polynesian compass is an easy exercise in itself. It's a mega memory game.
It's bringing back things that have probably been sitting inside me for years, and it's been waiting for something to resurrect it, such as this.
Of this generation, the majority of us don't have a background of the sea, but what we do have is that we share a love of our ancestors, our traditions, and we share a passion to try and revive those traditions and customs. And that's what brings us all together. We all know that we all know that we're here to recognise and value our ancestors and what they did for us, and this is just our opportunity to do it.
A wider range of knowledge than what I had before of what our ancestors did and what they achieved.
I sort of marvelled at Aotearoa and his family that came to New Zealand in the Great Migration and helped populate this country.
Because I always wondered about what it would be like for our tupuna when they came here, and after doing this you get a great understanding of what it's like.
Better understanding about how they navigated to where we are and how they got to New Zealand and stuff.
Like, you can appreciate what they do in terms of the sails, you know, in terms of celestial navigation, you know, everything that's surrounding the haurua is huge.
It would have been quite a feat physically to be able to do what they did, I mean, because they didn't have polar fleeces and everything else.
It's just giving me a sense of fulfilment that I've also been able to experience it.
Again, you appreciate the realm of Tangaroa, you know, and Tāwhirimate. Because, I mean, once you enter those realms, it becomes a personal thing and it becomes a spiritual thing.
And we have people like Papa Tip that remind us of those beginnings, of our tupuna. So everything has a meaning and everything does come back, as far as I'm concerned, back to our beginnings from our tupuna. And that, to me, I think because it's in each and every one of us, and I feel really, really humbled by it and quite strengthened by it as well.
For me, is what it's all about in a nutshell, is to encourage young Maori people to retrace the steps of their ancestors on the open sea and to establish their identity as a nautical race on this earth.
I would just encourage you to pop along to the WA as we did and join in the courses as we did, and it's actually turned my life in a totally new direction, and that's what it's done for me. So that's why I would encourage particularly younger people that don't have a very good steering hui. I would be encouraging them to steer in that particular direction of this kaupapa.
Make yourself available for the experience.
Plan ahead.
Follow their heart and listen to the people.
Don't come with any expectations.
Be open-minded.
Try not to be an individual.
Be prepared to put in the time, the commitment.
Make sure that you get in and help.
Be prepared to work hard.
For those of you that have children, fit that in the plan.
Work as a team.
Don't make out as if you know everything, because it kind of backfires.
Get stuck into it and go hard and just grab everything with both hands and learn as much as you can.
It's worth stretching the boundaries of what you're comfortable with.
In the end, it benefits you as a person.
Come and learn all about it. Listen to the kōrero, listen to these people, look at them, look at what they're doing, look at how their whole attitudes towards the future, towards their life, towards being who they are has changed.
To try and knit a team of young men and young women together to sail this ship in a very, very short space of time was nothing short of spectacular in my opinion.
The whole kaupapa? I don't see it finishing actually, I just see it getting bigger.
One of the learning outcomes is to use this taonga not only as a classroom out on the open ocean, but also to retrace those ancient routes that the tupuna travelled in their time to spread the populations of Polynesian people, the length and breadth of Polynesia.
We seem to have had a lot of successes in our course, that if we sort of conceive of something and you put the resources to make it work, it seems to work. And I think Waka is a classic example of that. We want to take it, extend that to international voyaging.
Well, if the vision is to grow the kaupapa around the country and to have Aotearoa one as a source of national pride, we need to take her out to the nation and let her know what she can do, let her know what her purpose is, and then ensure that what we say we're going to do, we actually do.
It's
a feeling you get on that waka that you can't explain.
If you get the opportunity, go for it.
Don't hesitate, if you get the chance, embrace it.
Enjoy it. And welcome it. It's awesome.
If there's something that you're missing, try this kaupapa.
If I have the time, I'll definitely go on every day.
I can't stop grinning.
I think the smile sort of tells it. Absolutely. Love it.
But getting any water time is awesome time. It's absolutely awesome time.
Way better than the internet.
It's a real privilege. It's an honour to be part of this.
These purposeful things, and it's here and it's now.
It's part of my journey.
Just here to the end, I suppose. Yeah, get a bit of grey hair and I'll be sitting here talking to my children or someone else's grandchildren.
When I go back home, to make them feel as if they too can be part of it, because at the end of the day, if I can do it, they can do it.
Undeniably worth it.
Oh, awesome. Excellent. I'm glad I did it.
It's a wonderful kaupapa, isn't it? It's a wonderful story. It's a wonderful philosophy of life, which is the important thing on this earth as far as we're concerned, as far as humans are concerned.